Hello and welcome to this edition of Newsnight, where we talk to some of Nigeria's major players on its journey to development and the issues generated from that odyssey. I'm Ladi Akiridoluale. Thanks for joining us. It's a rather special milestone as Nigeria marks its 60th independence anniversary. Many have asked questions about how the country has fared this last 60 years, and in particular, how its democracy has done in lifting its people. Today, we talk to the man who midwifed the Fourth Republic, which started on May the 29th, 1999, and is still in place today. Former head of state, retired General Abdulsalami Abubakar. Your Excellency, thank you for your time, and happy Independence Anniversary.
Thank you very much. Welcome, and also happy Independence Anniversary.
Where were you on October 1, 1960? If you can recollect.
Where I was October 1960. I was in Bida Secondary School. I was in school in October.
Did you participate in the festivities?
Yes, of course, there was parade, and all the students were, we held a parade together with other schools in Bida then, because there were some schools, and there was this organized parade by the colonial people, and also all the principals of the schools in Bida then participated in the celebration.
Did you and your classmates then discuss what this meant, this whole idea? What was all the hula baloo about, people running back and forth and so on? Did it form any part of your discussions back then?
Well, of course, we were excited listening to the senior citizen then discussing that Nigeria is now getting independence, and what independence means about is that, okay, there will be gradual change from colonial masters. Now we will have Nigerians doing the administration and so on. Of course, at that time, being students, it really didn't mean much. But then it meant that we are going to see less Oyibo people in the schools and so on and so forth. That's what it meant to us.
Now, when you left secondary school, you joined the Air Force first before you made the switch over to the Army.
Right.
Why the armed forces, first of all?
Okay. During our school days, I belonged to Boy Scout movement. And then with the activities of the Boy Scouts, camping, trekking and so on, that laid the foundation of my love for the military. And considering that we are getting independent, and then there was an, what would I say, campaign, let me use that word, where our leaders were educating us and the secondary school leavers to come and join the military. That further heightened my desire to go to the military.
In fact, they paraded then Lieutenant, I believe he was, Yakubu Gawan.
Right.
He was one of the prime people that were brought for you to see.
That's right.
That this is how you would look.
That's right.
In it. But you went to the Air Force before you eventually joined the Army.
Right.
Why was the Air Force first for you before you joined the Army?
Well, actually, I went for Army recruitment. It was after the recruitment into the Army that it is not all of us that could go to the Nigerian Military Training College then. So they were doing it in phases. So the first batch of General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, General Abacha, General Nasco went ahead. So the rest of us who were waiting to be the next batch, since the Air Force was being create, establish, they say, okay, why don't you go and form the first batch of people in the Air Force? That's how I found my way to the Air Force.
But eventually, because the army was what you wanted, you made your move.
Well, whatever it is, you know, we were training in the Air Force. Then the Civil War came, and there was need for officers. Some of us from the Air Force were drafted back to the Army and sent to Defense Academy for, I think, about 3-6 months course. Then we were commissioned and sent to the war front.
All your colleagues that I've spoken to describe that Civil War as a seminal point for them, both in life and in the career, and that the lessons they took away from it have been with them all ever since then, those who came out of it. Would you say that we survived it as a country is perhaps the country's greatest achievement in its 60 years? Or do you have another idea of what would
Well, certainly it's an achievement that kept this country going. Thank goodness to our leaders at that time, at the end of the war, especially General Yakubu Gowon, who was the head of state, who said there is no victor, no vanquished, and he's established the 3 R's. Reabsorption, rehabilitation, and reconstruction. I think it's a very big achievement that it kept the country together.
In terms of national unity, it wasn't just the 3 R program, it wasn't just the no victor, no vanquished. The administration put in place things like the unity schools, the NYSC, all in a bid to galvanize national unity, people getting to know others from other places. But within the army, that was already part of it, because in uniform, there was nothing about where you came from, you were just a soldier.
Absolutely.
Do you think that conferred an advantage on those who went to the army?
Certainly, because like you rightly said, once you are in this uniform, you don't care where anybody comes from, neither his religion or whatever. That brings that unity of purpose, because you know, as a soldier, once you are in war, the action of your colleague depends on your life, and his life depends on your action. So certainly that unity of purpose is there, and that builds the strong relationship between soldiers.
What was your Civil War experience like?
Horrible, horrific, I will say, because it's sad when you see fellow countrymen fighting each other, more especially in the military, where you have trained with some of these officers or soldiers whom you are serving Nigerian army together, and suddenly because of the Civil War, you now find yourself facing each other. It's very traumatic.
In the aftermath of the Civil War, the military many of your colleagues went into governance, political office. You didn't, you never did, but a number of them did, and some of your colleagues also have pointed to the fact that that tended to have affected the military negatively. Do you agree?
I agree entirely, because the emergence of military into politics degraded the performance of the military, in the sense that because of the fear of coup and counter-coup, a lot of military training and exercises that should have been done on an annual basis in order to keep the proficiency of the profession were scaled down. They were downgraded. That is number one. Number two, It affects the morale and the administration in the military, in the sense that you'll find quite a number of brilliant officers were deployed in the administration of the country. Very few were left to do the soldiering. And also, because of the incursion of the military, you find a situation where a junior officer is in the civil administration, and by omission or commission, he wants to load it over his senior who is in military duties. That affected morale, that affected discipline. So by and large, it is the military that suffered during the military incursion into politics.
That incursion ended in '79 for the first time. You were the parade commander in that 1979 as General Obasanjo handed it to Alhaji Shehu Shagari. As you sat on that mounted horse at, I believe it was Tafawa Balewa Square, what was going through your mind?
Well, one, it was an honor for me to be the commander on that parade. Two, the mere fact that also this is at a parade where the military is handing over to a democratically elected government also added to the importance of that parade. And a lot of things were going in my mind that, well, I have been given the honor to command this parade. And it was joyful in the sense that now the military is stepping out of politics and we are now handing over to democratically elected people, and we are going back to our profession.
But then that lasted all of 4 years before the military came back.
Unfortunately, yes.
But again, in 1999, fortuitously, some would describe it, you were again, this time at the Eagle Square, but as head of state, to hand over to the man who was handing over on the day of the parade.
Right.
I must ask again, what went through your mind on that day?
Well, again, it was an honor that now, rather than being the parade commander, I'm now the one in command, handing over to now a democratically elected personnel. And also now getting the military out of politics and going back into the barracks.
As the military headed for the barracks, you headed home.
Correct.
To Mina.
Right.
How would you assess the journey since then, 1999 to 2020? Some, in many of the publications I've read, say you are the father of the Fourth Republic. They have their reasons for saying that. What does the father of the Fourth Republic think about the Fourth Republic 21 years on?
Well, first, we must thank the good Lord for keeping faith with the nation. Since the handing over to a democratically elected government, I must say democracy is growing. The politics are improving, and so far so good. We have quite a number of elections during these 21 years. Of course, minus the violence and so on, you can comfortably say that politically, democratically, Nigeria is growing.
Yet you were quoted as saying, you know, at the time when you were midwifing this, you said something critical that had to do with the issue of making promises. That when leaders make promises that they are either sure that they cannot fulfill or that the reality of the situation they find themselves would show them that they cannot fulfill. It diminishes the credibility of the leadership and allows in chaos, public distrust. Against that background, how would you assess the politics of now?
All right. Let me rephrase what I said then. I said, okay, if you make promises, you must make sure that you make promises that you can fulfill. Because the nation, or to whomever you make that promise, that individual will hold you to that promise and will expect you to deliver on that promise. Now, having said that, did or have the politicians who went canvassing for votes, have they fulfilled the promises they made? The answer is neither here nor there. Some of the promises have been fulfilled, some have not been. And the failure can be blamed on both the politicians and the population, in that when they elected a representative, they have not held that representative to his or her promise. They did not demand accountability from the representative they chose. So it's a mixture of the leader and those being led.
When you emerged as head of state, you would be the first Nigerian military leader who, prior to the ascension of that position, had never held a political appointment. And yet you found yourself in the saddle. On that day, June 8th, 1998, what went through your mind, finding yourself in that position when prior to then, all you had done were purely military duties? Probably your interaction with the politicians were very limited, and therefore now you had no choice.
Well, it's a matter of, one, thinking of the responsibilities now that has been my responsibility. The responsibility of governing such a huge country with a lot of diversity. And I came in at a time when Nigeria was at precipice, when there was a lot of agitation to get the military out of politics. And when the military itself was being divided, rather than the military thinking for Nigeria and acting for Nigeria, the thinking now of my state of origin, my tribe, started crippling into the military. So these are the things that came to my mind. How do we address the issue of what the civilian population are agitating, that the military should get out of politics and hand over to a democratically elected government? And also, how do you handle the mistrust, the differences that is crippling or is finding its way into the military? There are some of the major issues that came to somebody's mind at that time.
You joined General Obasanjo as two or very few Africans in the military who handed power to civilians and walked away. Your program for handing over was even shorter than the one he presided over. 11 months. You did it and you walked away. I'm going to ask, why were you so convinced that it was the right thing to do, especially because colleagues of yours in the position you were in other countries did no such thing?
Well, learning from experience and considering the situation Nigeria was at that time, the circumstances, there was a lot of agitation on all the breadth, nook and corner of this country that we have enough of military and you should get out.
But you could have stayed, General.
Yep, but at what price? Do you go on a running battle with the people you are leading that you should leave, and there is their disobedience all over the country, there is destruction, and there seems to be now even a dichotomy now between the South and the North, where the same people, the same politicians are now trying now to be divided. Want to say, is it because our son is leading the country that you are now putting too much pressure? And this is not what we wanted. We wanted to have one country, considering, as you mentioned, I took part in the Civil War to keep this country as one. So this is an opportunity to continue that war, but in a different way, to make sure that the war we fought in order to keep this country now continue in a different way in politics, so that the same country remains together.
Would that explain that after you handed over and returned to Mina, you then sought actively to engage in peace building and development efforts, as exemplified by the National Peace Committee, and your role as special envoy to some African countries, again along those same themes? But let's start with the National Peace Committee. Is it that conviction which you've just expressed that led you to that?
What circumstances led to the Peace Committee? But let me say one thing. Each of us, the former heads of state, even the civilian presidents, when you leave office, there is what I will call residual responsibility. You as a leader, out of office, you have a responsibility to make sure that what you have done in keeping the country, in seeing to the development of the country, in whatever way you can out of office, you continue to do that. If you look at all the former heads of states and the president, in one way or the other, they are involved in one activity or the other to fulfill their residual responsibility, which is on our heads. Now, an opportunity for the Peace Committee came up. I was out of the country when the tension of the campaign for the 2015 general election, you know, it was a very, very dirty campaign. It was mudslinging, names being called people. It was a very dirty. A group of international people, in trying to help our country, got together with some Nigerians to think, look, let us see how we can help this country. Let us see how we can douse the tension so that there can be a peaceful election, so that it doesn't lead to further bloodshed. Some of these international communities, personalities, included the late Kofi Annan, may he rest in peace, other prominent Nigerians like Chief Nyoku, Professor Akinyemi and others, got together. And having got the nucleus and of the understanding of this peace committee, they domiciled the headquarters of this committee at Kuka Center. Now, after the initial stage, they look around, who are the people that are in position to drive this peace process forward. My name and others came into being nominated, and I was approached that, look, there is this committee. Would you mind if you come and lead this committee? Of course, certainly, it falls into this residual responsibility. I said, why not? And that's how I became involved with the peace committee. And I thank God, through the understanding of Nigerians and the politicians as well, the peace committee, I would say, has done a good job and is continuing to preach peace in our politics.
You've witnessed what happened between 1979 and 83. You also saw what happened between 1960 and 1960. And you're seeing what is happening now. Do you think the political actors have learned the necessary lessons from the previous experience, and that is why this particular republic has gone on for as long as it has? Have they learned the necessary experience at the federal, at the state levels, from what you've seen, from their actions, their words, from what they're doing and saying? Have they learned the lessons that can ensure that what you midwifed continues to grow?
Well, rather than centering on the politicians, let me say Nigerians generally, in one way or the other, are learning from that lesson. Some try to implement what has been learned. Others are throwing caution to the dogs. What do I mean by that? Immediately after independence, we played politics of intimidation, regionalism, and tribalism, which brought the military incursion into the politics in order to correct, in quote, this Kenkawo. Now, the military played its role one way or the other until 1999 when the military withdrew. Yes, for the first 10 years, let me say, after the withdrawal of the military, I will say the politics was going on smoothly. But somehow down the line, to answer your question, we are now slipping back.
How so?
Good. We are now, you find that there is a lot of agitation in the country. Everybody wants to go out. There is Ariwa Consultative Forum, thinking of Ariwa. There is Ferry, thinking of the Yoruba nation. There is IPO, thinking of Biafra nation. There are agitations, Urobo nation, Ijo nation, and so on. So you can now see we are now slipping back. We are not thinking for Nigeria. First, we are thinking of our tribe and our place. That is our first thought. Then Nigeria. There is perception that is bringing this canker back. People think they are being marginalized. People think there is no equity, no justice. And they think by trying to cope out, they will now carve an empire for themselves, a nation where they think there will be equity and justice, which they feel is being denied them in the nation of Nigeria. And this is to me, a very serious issue that we need to tread with caution. In any nation, there are problems. But the way how to manage this problem is the answer. For those who are agitating for the breakaway of this country, to me, that is not the solution. The solution is to have the political will to see how this perception of being disadvantaged is addressed, where there is equity and justice, where everybody is given his own rights to perform and be part and parcel of the country.
General, all kinds of things. I mean, if you take the northern part of Nigeria now, banditry, cattle rustling, kidnapping for ransom, and that is all coming after the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast. And then, of course, there are the ones that have been down south for decades, which have also assumed new dimensions. So I'm wondering, you've been in security all your life, rising to the very top. You know this country. A number of these security challenges cannot have metamorphosed overnight. What are we going to do? What can we do? Because even as we talk about Nigeria at 60, this thing has this looming shadow, this cloud hanging over what would have been our celebration. Is there. Most people are afraid of going to other places and so on because of all this. What do you think we can do?
Well, certainly security or insecurity is a matter of concern for all of us. What can we do? One, we as a people have to put all hands on deck to fight this menace. Let me start by the simple one. When I say simple, in quote, the kidnapping, the cattle rustling. People will say it is the economic situation that is making people do what they are doing, to kidnap and hold people for ransom. If I may ask, this economic situation, is it only affecting Nigerians? If you look into the whole of Africa, you look into our neighbors, they suffer the same economic crunch. But do you see some of these menace in our country, in our neighbors, in our countries? Because of economic situation, do they go on kidnapping people to ask for ransom? I would say to some extent, no, they don't. So it is we as a people, our value that has changed. The value for human life, the greed to be rich overnight. Our educational system, when we were young, not all of everybody goes to the university. People go to the trade centers. They go and learn masonry, carpentry, ironmongery. Now, very few of our children are sent to these places. Each one of us will send his child to the university. You go and earn a degree and so on, but there is no profession that you can be self-sustaining. Now, how do we help? How do we assist? Each one of us has a role to play. One, these miscreants are living among us. Let us have the trust and believe in our security operatives that we can confide and give them information without being betrayed. People are afraid, they said if they go and give information, they will be betrayed by the security operatives. Let us disabuse our minds from that and trust our security agencies and help them by giving information. The security is everybody's responsibility. Now, our security agencies, let us, as much as possible, give them the whistle to fight these miscreants. Let us help ourselves. When we see a strange fellow among us, when we are suspicious of action of an individual among us, let us report. Now, talking of the Northeast, most of these diehards, miscreants, are with the people. They live amongst them. When they want to operate, they sneak out, go and do their havoc, and then come on back and live with the people. And even people who are not the miscreant themselves, they help them logistically. They sell them food, they sell them fuel and whatever in order to be able for them to perform. So let us all join hands and do the right thing and do our citizens a responsibility.
General, you are in an extremely unique position. Have you ever thought, or are you thinking, or are you actually doing, documenting your thoughts in form of a book?
Well,
that people like me and my children can read and learn.
I have been asked that a number of times. We'll do at appropriate time.
General, you're 78.
Right.
The good Lord has already been very kind.
Yes, yes, and we thank God. We continue to thank Him. I personally, I keep thanking my God. When I look at where we started, where we came from, and where we are. For example, in my secondary school days, we were about 25 to 30 in the class. Now I think only 7 or 8 of us are still alive. So you are saying that time is not on my side. I should go ahead. Well, we are doing something.
Okay, we'll look forward to that. How are you surviving in this era of COVID?
Well, we thank God. And I keep telling Nigerians and Africa, in Nigeria we have to thank God that He's looking over us. Because the way we treat this COVID issue, we make nonsense of all the regulation, all the appeal made by the COVID committee to educate us and protect us. We throw cautions to the dog. We don't wear our mask. We don't observe social distance. Some of us don't even believe that there is this COVID. So it's a big challenge. So how do I survive? By as much as possible following the guidelines of this COVID committee, who are daily toiling, educating us how to protect ourselves by avoiding the avoidable, which they ask us to avoid. I'm doing what they ask us to do. 1, social distance, wearing our mask. I avoid going out as much as possible. So, with the grace of God, this is what we are doing to survive the COVID.
My final question. As we celebrate, as we mark 60, what is your message? What do you want Nigerians to know going forward? What message should they take from you going forward?
Good. 1, let me congratulate ourselves for coming this far. Let us keep hope in mind. There is no nation in this world that doesn't have problems. Let us not shy away from the problems we are facing. Let us try to live in equity and justice. Let us give every Nigerian the chance to play his or her role in developing this nation, and also in enjoying the God-given gifts Nigeria gives this country. Let us ensure there is justice and equity. I repeat that. Let every Nigerian be given equal opportunity in the country. let every Nigerian know that the government, neither the state nor the federal government, can employ everybody. But having said that, let the government of the day try to provide a conducive atmosphere where every Nigerian can strive to make a living. Let us improve in our community service. Let us improve in our infrastructure. Let us ensure we provide education. Let us ensure also we as our citizens of the country, we do our citizens' duty. Let us pay our taxes. Let us pay our dues. Let us maintain what the government has provided. Let's look into the problems, perceived or real, to see how we can address it. And let us be our neighbors' keepers. I repeat, every nation has a problem. Nigeria is no exception. There is advantage in diversity. Let us use this diversity to make sure we continue to build this nation of abundance with all the good things the good Lord has given us. I wish Nigeria well, and I hope each one of us will continue to maintain peace in her or his way. Congratulations, Nigeria. Many happier returns of the anniversary.
Your Excellency, General Abubakar, thank you so much for your time. It's been a real honor having this time with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and congratulations on what you are doing in educating us and informing us.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Happy anniversary.
Same to you. Thank you. That's it on this edition of the program. Would like to hear from you through our various media platforms. The handles are there on your screen. Newsnight also has its podcast, where you can listen to this and other interviews featured on the program. Just go to channelstv.com/podcast. I'm Abdulsalami.